There are two pivotal moments in my life that I want to talk to you about today. The moment that I decided to leave New York and my pursuit for a career in fashion design and move to Lebanon, and the moment that I decided to start a free school in fashion design. I graduated from the new school. I studied fashion design in Parsons and media and culture studies in Eugene Lang. It was the perfect combination of both of my passions. In Parsons, I was able to reach my creative potential because I had great mentors. And in Lang, I did 2 study abroad programs. One where I went to Dharamsala, India, and I lived with a Tibetan refugee family. Another where I went to Cambodia and studied Cambodian politics. These 2 experiences radically changed the way I viewed the world and my engagement with it. All of a sudden, I knew I didn't want to pursue fashion for fashion's sake. I didn't just want to make clothes for rich people. And so I found myself lying on my bed in New York, wondering what to do next. And I decided to move to Lebanon because I am Lebanese and there's so much work to be done here. And so I moved to Lebanon, and a year into it, I'm working with a textile company, a furniture company in textiles, and I'm also working for an NGO, which was the perfect 2 jobs of both of my passions. But then when I went back to New York, I was sitting with my mentor and professor from Parsons, Caroline Simonelli, and I was telling her that I love my 2 jobs, but I need to find a way to merge my 2 passions, which is creativity and social justice. I didn't know exactly how to do it, so she just looked at me, and out of nowhere, suddenly she said, "Why don't you start a free school?" Yes, it's like a light bulb moment. I'm going to start a free school. And I looked at her and I said, "Will you come with me?" And she said, "Yes." So why a free school in fashion design? Design is a process used to shape and structure our world, in the clothes that we wear, in the buildings that we live in the products that we use. In order for design to be used as an effective tool for the progress of society, it needs to be inclusive, incorporating the voices and visions of people from all backgrounds. In a country like Lebanon, where there are already social and economical gaps, perhaps designing together will allow us to move forward. Free education is the solution to putting design in the hands of people from all backgrounds. And so, I came back to Lebanon. I had the professor with 50 years of experience in fashion design. And I was sitting with a friend of mine too, and she worked for Donna Karen, Urban Zen. And she said if I did this, she would donate fabric. And so I had the professor, and I had $100,000 worth of fabric. Now, I needed the school. Except there was one problem. I didn't know exactly how to start a school. And so the first step, I thought, was maybe I should collaborate with an NGO to be more credible. Soon after, I realized that perhaps it's a bad idea to collaborate with an NGO because in the NGO world, it's more about quantity versus quality. For them, they want a project that has a start and an end. For example, a 2-week project where you're teaching 200 women how to sew. So there's a technical skill, but there's an end and a beginning, which is completely the opposite of what I was trying to do. So what I did was I spent months writing a proposal, and I approached my parents. And luckily, because I have such a supportive family, I was able to leave the idea of collaborating with an NGO and decided to do this on my own. So now I had the funds. I had to find a space. I found a super cute, kind of charming space that looked more like a cave. And I thought that, okay, why not? This is inspiring. I borrowed tables and I put them over rocks so they could be elevated. And I found cardboards in grocery stores so I could put the supplies in it. And there you go, space and supplies. Now I had to find the students. The most difficult part. I mean, I never really lived in Lebanon before, so how was I supposed to go about finding students? So I started to knock on people's doors. I went to NGOs, I went to Palestinian refugee camps, I went to orphanages, and slowly, families started to let me into their homes. The hard part about it is that I was not attached to an institution. So therefore, I was just a fresh graduate who had this idea, and I was asking these families to trust me. It was difficult, but eventually I started to see self-taught portfolios. All these students with raw talent, they've been drawing since they were a kid, but it's repressed because they're not given a chance because design is reserved for the elite. And so finally, I found 5 students. They came from different backgrounds: Armenian, Lebanese, Palestinian. The idea of the Creative Space is to bring students from all different backgrounds around Lebanon to come work together, collaborate. And now I found them. So now I have the student, I have the space, and I have the funds. I'll never forget the day before I started. I entered the space, and the charming little cave ended up being super dusty, and I was viciously sweeping the cave because I realized, in fact, the stones created all this dust. It wasn't so charming anymore. What would they think? I started to self-doubt. But mostly I started to self-doubt because I had never been a leader before. I was never a mentor before. I was very comfortable following people I respected, and now I was supposed to be a mentor. And so I just remembered the words that Caroline had actually told me. She said that a leader is made when a leader is needed, and I guess it was needed. So, Caroline comes in June 2011, and we launched the Creative Space Beirut. And if the Creative Space Beirut was supposed to be a safe haven where people came together to create, then how exactly were we supposed to do it in 3 months? The idea was that in 3 months, since the funding was coming from my parents, in 3 months, I was supposed to create a collection, have an exhibition, sell the clothing, so we could generate income to continue. How are we supposed to do that? Well, the answer kind of came straight to us because we had so much donated fabric. So me and Caroline looked at each other and we said, well, why don't we just give the students the fabric and see what happens? So we did just that. We said, go. And all of a sudden, we were in awe. The students started to drape and to sculpt and to create without having any technical skills. And we were convinced how much talent there was and how much talent was being wasted and that the world was really missing out. And that is when we began what I'll call a progressive model, but in fact, it's a really old way of doing things. Before design was institutionalized and privatized, people would work under mentorship. They would go and work with designers. And under this sort of holistic approach, they would learn the technical skills through the creative process. Today, what universities have done is they have taken these technical skills and they have compartmentalized them and divided them into individual courses, which makes no sense. So there's the drawing class, the draping class, the concepts class, they're all divided into classes. And so we kind of rejected this model. We have this sort of more interdisciplinary approach where the technical skill is embedded in the creative process. So basically, it's for us, we really do believe in technical skills, but we believe it's important to embed it in the creative process because that's what designing is. And at the Creative Space Beirut, we believe we make designers, not clothes. So we gave them the fabric, and they were not afraid to cut the fabric the way I was afraid to cut the fabric when I was in school. 3 months later, it was a lot of hard work. It was super exhausting, exciting, fun. Caroline had come all the way from New York at the age of 76. She's originally Lebanese. So she's originally Lebanese, but her parents left during World War I, so this was the first time she had actually come to Lebanon. But she had dedicated herself to this mission, to start a free school with me. And the students came together, they worked super, super hard. And after 3 months, they created a collection of 30 pieces. And then we realized 2 weeks before that in fact we have to advertise this because people have to come. And that part was really difficult because I didn't know anyone in the country yet. But it was to my surprise, the media responded really quickly, and they were really happy to talk about this. And the day of the exhibition, 300 people came. We sold every single item there. And we generated around $17,000. So, what next? 3 months were over. Caroline had to go back to New York to continue teaching at Parsons. and I had to continue. The journey to get to where we are today was very, very difficult. I mean, after all, I was a 25-year-old fresh graduate who had almost no experience in the fashion industry and absolutely no experience or knowledge on how to build a nonprofit school. It was all based on trial and error, mostly error. It's still based on trial and error. Today, 3 years later, we've become a 3-year program where the students come every day from Monday through Friday for 6 hours a day. Our students are Palestinian, Armenian, Lebanese. They come from Shuf, from Saida, from Beirut. They come together and they collaborate. We've collaborated with 12 local and international designers. We have 4 exhibitions under our belt, and this year, in October actually, we're going to have our first exhibition in Kuwait, which is our first exhibition outside of Lebanon. We're still experimenting with our curriculum. It's solidifying slowly. And our credibility in Lebanon within the design community is beginning to grow. This year, our students took part of a local competition by Persil, where 60 students, design students around Lebanon competed to create one upcycled outfit. Amongst the 60 students, 5 of our students won top 10, and 2 of our students won first and second place, going to Milan and Paris. Today, our exhibitions are growing to become a brand. So we're about to launch the Creative Space ready-to-wear collection, meaning that all our sales from these simple pieces that the students and team created, all the sales and money generated goes straight to fund the education of the Creative Space student. The idea being is that we really, really want to reach self-sustainability. That's our goal. That's what we're striving for. It's been super difficult because we didn't realize upon starting the school that because we're a sort of new idea, we've been rejected and rejected over and over again by grants. Because we're not your normal nonprofit or NGO, the grants keep telling us that we're not development enough or our outreach is too small. So we've been getting a ton of rejections. But so it's a good thing because we're new. It's a bad thing because it's been a financial struggle. But at the end of the day, for me, it's completely, completely worth it. When I'm sitting in the room, looking at our students, collaborating, working together, they've become like family. And these are students who would have otherwise never met. Their backgrounds would have never collided, and it's really, really beautiful to see. I'll give you one example. One of our students got married and had a baby, so she left. We went to go visit her, me and the students, in Bush Barajne Palestinian camp. And we get there, and we were having a great time. And then when we leave, one of the Lebanese students looks at me and he says, "I don't understand why. I don't understand why we don't have the same rights. We're friends. We're a family. Why don't we have the same rights?" And then he looked at me and he said, "What can we do?" So he looked at me and he said, "What can we do?" And at that moment, that was his moment where his questions shifted. It was his turning point. So there's a shift of perspectives, an atmosphere where social justice and creativity come hand in hand, an example of how talent can be preserved instead of repressed. It's an atmosphere where we foster talent. And today, free education is the solution in putting design in the hands of people from all backgrounds. Thank you.